This sort of idea of spontaneous playing, it's the idea of playing in a live situation like that where it's very immediate, where things change and we have to adapt to change immediately.
It's the conductor.
Yeah, yeah.
Classes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to a point, and also,
Yeah.
and also, I think that the way that we all are able to utilize the space, and having that space that we're playing in is part of actually the sound of what we're playing. Because a lot of times, I notice in the big room that we're playing in, or any room that we play in, can have bearing on our dynamics and what direction we may take it. But just spontaneously creating at the moment, I think, is what's interesting about what we're doing, and how everybody basically is listening to whatever texture each one of us chooses to play, because that can determine what we're going to pick up, which direction we're going to go, you know. And watching the movements combined with listening to these textures and all the different instrument choices, you know.
The harmonic context of what is there's no restraints because I'm controlling it, so I don't have, so it's just a rhythmic thing, and then whatever harmony in that particular moment is, which is kind of what we do, you know, as the group. It kind of plays off each other as well, you know. So yeah.
And the ebb and the flow, because that, I think, is kind of the essence of what we're doing. So we're reacting to the instructor, but also to the students,
and
then to each other.
Right.
And I kind of go back to that question: does the drummer play for the dancer, or is the dancer reacting to the drummer, or is the drummer reacting to the dancer?
Yeah.
And the answer is yes.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Inhale, reverse warrior. Exhale, your elbow to your thigh, extended side ankle. Sweep the right arm overhead, facing the floor. Inhale, reverse. Exhale, extend. 5 more times, over.
You know, talking about the idea of listening and sound and space. We were talking about this earlier. The idea of sometimes just simply dropping out. Like if I just stop playing, you know, and it just, there are those spaces, because a part of music is silence, you know, or space.
Utilizing space.
In utilizing space, you know, I think about bands like, for example, like Nirvana or the Pixies, you know, where it could get really raging. Not that we get really raging per se, but then it would drop down to like the bass, And it creates this whole other sound. And like, it's really nice to hear with this, where an instrument might drop out, or a couple instruments drop out, and then suddenly it gives rise to another texture, you know, this or the flute or whatever, and suddenly it's this whole new creation.
I think that's just like, well, it's tension and release, which also is reflective of the movement and what's going on in class. Because I know all of us practice yoga or some other forms of movement where some of the practice is extremely intense, and then you get to the point where you're not moving at all, but you still feel that energy moving in you and all around you.
Right.
And I think that's reflective of how we can feed off of what's going on around us. It's just communicating without words.
And, yeah, completely in the moment and feeding off of each other. Yeah, and I love that we start from all different places. You know, like, all different instruments. It could be a groove. It could be, you know, often it's the feeling of what we think that goes with the particular vinyasa or asana, whatever's happening.
Yeah.
But then after that, you know, one of us will start, and then we just all pick up, and it goes somewhere. And the listener, even though they're not expressing musically, they're still involved, because they're forming their own feelings and their own thoughts about it. So, and with their movement, if they are doing yoga, or they're just moving or dancing, or they're just sitting and listening, they're still actively involved, because they are having their own experience of it. You know?
Well, the energy is transferring back and forth too, and I like watching, you know, when they're not doing any movement at all, when they're stationary and we're playing, and they're still moving, whether they even know they're moving. You've noticed their body is still, whether, you know, I've seen a couple of people, just it's going right inside of them.
Yeah.
Which is great to see that.
This situation does, to some degree, demand trust and letting go and just allowing the moment to take you where it's going to take you.